I'm going to be very blunt with you. I might lose some of you. I might lose some of you after this episode if you disagree with me. But I am somebody who I'll be very personal and transparent.
Hey, Mama Bear. Welcome to the Breastfeeding with Confidence podcast. Do you dream of bonding with your baby through exclusive breastfeeding, but worry about breastfeeding pain or low milk supply? Maybe you're struggling with breastfeeding and no one seems to have any answers. I'm Jamie, doula, international board certified lactation consultant, and mom of 5, and I have been where you are. After working through painful latches, milk supply worries, and postpartum depression, and supporting countless mothers through their breastfeeding journeys for over 8 years, I'm here to tell you breastfeeding doesn't have to be perfect to be positive. Each week, I'll share breastfeeding tips to help you prevent and overcome unexpected breastfeeding challenges so you can actually enjoy bonding with your baby. If you are ready to shut out the toxic whispers of the world, embrace your God-given intuition, and release your inner fierce mama bear, grab some coffee or your favorite herbal tea and let's dive in.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed our episode last week with Lisa Palladino about tongue-tie releases. And a topic came up during that episode that I decided I want to dig into a little bit deeper today. And it's a controversial topic, so I'm just going to dive into it. I am doing this with no script, no outline. I am just speaking to you from the heart. And I want you to know that this is not intended to come across as judgment. It is a very sensitive topic. However, I am very, very clear about how I feel about it, and I am strong in my belief, and I'm going to share that belief with you. If you want to hear it and throw it in the trash can, that is fine. You are welcome to do that. If you hear it and change your heart in how you're thinking, that is wonderful too. So this is really just about getting you to think a little deeper than what you have been told. So much of motherhood is a transformation between what we've been told, being taught to be good girls, follow the rules, do what everybody else does, and learning how to listen to our intuition and do what works for us, do what makes sense, and question the status quo. That is so much of what we learn during pregnancy and birth and breastfeeding. And if you don't learn it during that time, you'll learn it eventually. There will be a time in your motherhood journey, whether that's when your child is an older child, a teenager, at some point you will have to learn how to start questioning what you've been told and the rules you've been made to follow. So you saw the episode title, obviously, if you're here, so you probably know what we are talking about today. But if you missed last week's episode or somehow this auto-played and you didn't see the title yet, we're going to be talking about the interesting, it's like an interesting phenomenon where some parents are very, very hesitant to get a tongue tie release, but very, very quick to get a circumcision on their boy without questioning it. This is always very frustrating to me as a lactation consultant because I have worked with families where the baby very clearly needs a release, and I'm never going to tell somebody that they have to release. That's always their choice. It's always their decision. My job is to give you the information. And sometimes that information is, we're probably not going to make the progress you want without release being part of the care plan. If you choose not to release, that's your right. That is fine. I will support you in that. However, we probably won't achieve the end goal that you're looking for. So that sometimes is part of the information. And it is not uncommon that I have parents who are like, well, I don't want to do a release because I'm afraid it's going to hurt him. I'm afraid that it's mean, it seems cruel, and I'm staring blankly because they have already told me about how they're handling their baby's circumcision care, and they seem quite confident in that decision. And I typically don't bring this up in a consult. Sometimes I do if it makes sense, but my question is often like, you're hesitant because this brings pain, but you're still very confident in having had your baby circumcised. Again, these are not conversations I'm having with these people in that vulnerable moment. Please don't think I'm like cruel. However, I have had the conversation with people before about they say that they had their baby circumcised and they're very happy they had their baby circumcised in one breath. And then as the conversation progresses, they'll say, yeah, we didn't get a tongue tie release because that's cruel. And I'm like, wait a second, back up. You just told me that you got your baby circumcised and you're very confident in that. Well, yeah, because babies don't remember pain. Okay, That's interesting. We could go down a whole rabbit hole on why that's false. But if babies don't remember pain, why are you afraid to get him a tongue tie release? Because it's going to be painful. Oh, well, it's different. Yeah, you're right. It is different. Tongue tie release is a therapeutic treatment to solve a problem that is existing to help your baby. Circumcision is a, quote, preventative treatment that is not even actually based in solid, strong evidence. And half the time when I ask you why you got a circumcision on your baby, your response was not even actually about preventing anything. It was about them matching dad. This doesn't make sense. This is, honestly, it's absurd. I'm going to be very blunt with you. I might lose some of you. I might lose some of you after this episode if you disagree with me. But I am somebody who, I'll be very personal and transparent. I opted for circumcision I've got 3 boys. I opted for circumcision with one of them. And I quickly realized that probably was not a great decision. And I remember, I don't want to share too much information about my thought processes and decision making around circumcision and not circumcising in the future because I don't want to compromise other people's privacy. But I'll just say that, there are people in my life who I knew had what would be considered minor complications with circumcisions as infants. And I remember that. And I still chose to do it to my child anyway. And then went on to have those same minor complications. And then I realized it's not fair for me to make that choice for my child when it's not rooted in a therapeutic need. It's not fair to put an infant through that kind of stress and trauma. And whether you believe it or not, it is stress and trauma for them. Their body will remember that stress and trauma, even if they don't cognitively and consciously remember the pain and remember the day of the experience. Their subconscious does. Their body holds that. And there are babies who are breastfeeding really, really well and go get circumcised and come back and won't latch because they're so dysregulated. Their nervous system is now so dysregulated, and nervous system regulation is such a huge part of this. And, this whole storyline of, oh, well, we did it to be like dad circumcised, blah, blah, blah. It would be so much worse if it had to happen in the future. Would it be worse if it had to happen in the future when he has coping mechanisms and is being given pain medicine because people think that infants don't need pain medicine, so they'll just torture them and mutilate them without pain medicine and turn around and say it's going to be easier or it would be harder in the future? No, thank you. This results in babies who end up not wanting to latch and have extremely dysregulated nervous systems. And yeah, I'll even ask parents about that. If everything else is checking out and it's like, so he was latching fine and it was after his circumcision that he stopped latching. And they'll tell me this, they'll tell me the story and they don't even put 2 and 2 together sometimes. And we can't find anything else going on. And I'm like, yeah, well, we probably need to work on some nervous system regulation stuff because he was thrown into fight or flight when you chopped off a part of his functioning body. I don't say that, obviously, but I'm saying it to you. I'm saying it to you now because you need to be thinking about these things if you are pregnant and preparing for a baby. And if you have had your baby and did choose circumcision, I'm not judging you because I've been there. I've made that choice, but I am challenging you. I am challenging you to look really long and hard at that choice and then apply those same lack of critical thinking skills that you applied to that. I want you to apply to a tongue tie release and then realize how silly it is to say, I'm not going to do a tongue tie release because it could hurt my baby, but I got him circumcised. Now, if you got him circumcised and regret it already, and that's part of why you're not making the decision to release because you feel like now you're just doing too much to him, that's understandable. And that I have a lot of compassion for because I understand how that can feel, but we still need to have that conversation about a therapeutic intervention versus a preventative intervention. And if you listen to Lisa's interview last week, we talked about not doing tongue tie releases on infants as preventative measures, but as therapeutic measures. So if you are having breastfeeding issues that Everything else has been ruled out, and the only thing left to try is a tongue tie release, and you're hesitant to do that because it's going to hurt your baby, but you also got your baby circumcised and you stand by that decision. I'm going to challenge you to really, really think about how you can put those two things side by side and justify that. Again, I'm not judging you. I'm challenging you. Whether you got your baby circumcised or not, if you do need breastfeeding support and you're struggling with latching and you're wondering if there's a tongue tie, or you think there's a tongue tie and other people said there's not, or you know there's a tongue tie, but the care plan you were given just doesn't sit right with you and you want to make sure you're doing everything right, reach out. Let's set up a consult. Let's do an evaluation and let's create a plan that gets you the most success, that leads to you making confident decisions. And that's what I want for you. I want you to make confident decisions. So even if you listen to this episode and you do feel challenged and you still feel like release is not right for you, that is fine. If you feel confident in that decision, if you have consulted with your intuition and have gotten all the information, all the real information, and you still feel strongly against release, that is your right. That is your right. That is an okay place to be if you are making that decision confidently. And that's what we want. We want you to be making decisions out of confidence, not fear, not pressure. But I will pressure you to reevaluate your thought process if you have made some decisions out of blind obedience and now you're questioning something that your baby needs when you have the information that it is needed. If you are still wanting to learn more about circumcision, I will also drop some resources in the show notes for you on that as well, because I think it's really important for people to learn about circumcision and challenge the status quo, challenge what we've been told. And I don't want you to just be against circumcision because I said I'm against it. I want you to learn about it and get that information and make your own informed decisions. Now, if you stuck with me through that, I'd love to invite you back on Friday because we have a really awesome episode coming up with the baby wearing OT over on Instagram. Jordan is in OT and she specializes in baby wearing and has a ton of amazing information to share with you, wisdom, and you are going to learn so much. So make sure you hit the little subscribe button if you haven't already so that you can come join us on Friday to learn all about baby wearing. And I promise you there will not be any controversial conversations on Friday.
All right, Mama Bear, that is a wrap for today. If this episode helped you feel a little more confident or a little more prepared for breastfeeding, can I ask you a quick favor? Go ahead and leave me a review. It helps other moms find this podcast and join us in this amazing community of fierce and confident mama bears. And hey, if you know a friend who could use some encouragement or real talk about pregnancy, breastfeeding, and all things motherhood, share this episode with her. You've got this, Mama Bear. Trust your instincts, stay fierce, and I'll catch you in the next episode.